I opened my school with a credit card. And the first thing I did was I made myself look huge with my website and my social media presence. So your branding and marketing of your target audience is important.
If you're finding value in what you're watching, consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on the bell notification. Oh, and don't forget to drop a comment. I love hearing your thoughts and ideas. By the way, we have got a ton of other videos waiting for you. And if you are ready to level up your mindset, come hang out with us in our private Facebook group called Mindset for Business Success. Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast, everyone. Today we have with us Elaine Sterling. Elaine is a well-known figure in the beauty and wellness industry. She's the founder of Elaine Sterling Institute. Welcome to our show, Elaine.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be on.
My pleasure. It's great to have you. How do you keep your creativity alive while dealing with business pressures, keeping your
Day-to-day
brand?
minutia, I call it.
Yeah. Can you share that?
Yeah. Doing things like this. I'm very creative all the time. And some of the ideas that I have don't work. And some of them are just to feed me. I wrote a book, Beauty Beyond the Mirror. So that fed me because that took about 6 to 8 months. Doing podcasts, started a podcast of my own, always looking at what is innovative and what is also happening on social media. We do a lot of social media work, a lot of speaking engagement. So all the things that sort of feed my creativity, and then I can pour back, because it's a strange world now being in business, being an entrepreneur, because you don't know where the consumer is going, because the consumer is so influenced by what's happening on social media. But then brands are now copying what's on social media, as opposed to, they always used to be the forerunner of what's going to be the next greatest
Creativity?
thing. They're copying social media. And I'll give you an example. I'm very up, because I'm in the beauty industry. I'm very up on these they call them TikTok beauty hacks. So I did a talk on it, and I like to see what the young ones are doing. And then I saw that a very well-known brand had copied exactly, almost word for word, what they were doing in one of these trends. So it's almost like we are guiding now the branding and marketing. So I try and stay on top of things. And I also have a very young social media person, which really helps, because like, she'll know what's trending and she's following it. So that's helpful too, to have some young ones. Because when I opened my business, remember we had the trifold. That was how we did our branding and marketing. And that was only 16 years ago. So I don't know where this is going, but feeding the creativity is huge for me. Also, I belong to associations and we do a lot of stuff with them, because when I have one business, well, actually I have a business within a business, because I have my beauty school, and then I have 5, probably 8 programs. And then I have my skincare line. I have a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. So it's really important to always be what I call future planning. I'm a big future planner. So I do a strategic plan every year for 3 years. But guess what? I update it every year, because the world changes so much. Think of COVID. I was thinking, my goodness, I can't believe that COVID was 2020 and then we're now 2025. But COVID felt like 3 years in one, how things had moved so quickly. I was just looking, Miami has the newest massage robot. I don't know if you saw that on social media, but you know what it has? And I don't know if you're a fan of science fiction. And I'm talking about old science. It has a kill switch. So I'm like, if a robot's giving you a massage and there's a kill switch.
Stay clear. Yeah. So what steps do you take, Elaine, or any strategies that you could share for future planning, which is it's an important part of your business?
So I actually have I set goals, right? First of all, I go back and I marinate. I always say marinate, because I'm South African, so we marinate everything. I marinate on what I wrote for the last 3 years. And then I do a synopsis of, did I meet those goals, right? Are there some goals that still need to continue, or have I have I adapted it? Because you know, everyone's, oh, you got to have your 5-year plan, have your 10-year plan. No, that's too far into the future. have 1 to 3 years at this point. And so then I say, okay, what does my company need? Because there's no crystal ball. I always say, where's your customer? Who's your customer? Right. And now somehow I don't know. I'm always thinking, okay, we need to rethink what we're doing, because some things work really well. And some things, there's something new and creative out there that we need to do. And I say throwing spaghetti on the ceiling, kind of what sticks, right? Because we used to do things like billboards and the MARTA, which is our public train system, having our information in there and all the old school stuff. And now I think that reels are just huge. Our attention span has gone down to a reel. So that's really big now. That really catches somebody's attention, a very short reel on what you're doing, what's trending. The podcasts are huge. I think the podcasts are new for my industry. So I'm doing a really big beauty industry is a $500 billion industry globally. So sometimes we like a beauty school dropout, we poo it, right? But when I came to Atlanta in 98, spa and sort of self-wellness or wellness was a very new concept, which was not a new concept as I know in Canada, and because I trained in South Africa and I have international certifications, so I'm always going overseas. It's spa and wellness has been so new to America, so it's had such a huge growth spurt and still growing because of the amount of people we have. So you've got to stay on top of trends. And yeah, trends are short-lived. And then I try and think of how we can create our own trends. There's so many influencers now, they're really influencers. I don't know.
When you're going after those goals, or when you're setting those goals, do you tend to be more logical with your goals, or do you think big when creating them?
Both. So I pull reports, obviously, and I see where we are. We're up, we're down, we're upside down, we're moving. And so what part of my business do I need to focus on? So obviously that's going to be part of my goal. And I think a big mistake a company makes, and I've seen recently, without naming names, but I've seen a company that was in business for 36 years go out of business. And that shouldn't happen, because that's your history there, right? And the only thing I can say to a business, no matter how small you are, you've always got to be growing. Always. So where would the growth be for my company? And that's what I look at, because
that'll be the key focus for the
and then I
goal
have an
setting.
advisory board. And I have an advisory board of not just industry people. I have people that are investors or that own buildings, that are doctors, attorneys, lawyers. So business people and industry people. And then we talk about, because even if you're a doctor or lawyer, you're also an end user of our industry. So I listen to them and what the industry needs. And for example, a lot of the advisory board said that people in my industry, the technicians, really need financial literacy and financial health, because they make a lot of money, but they've got to understand how much. My students who graduate that go into the industry that are the open business, they have to understand how much money they need and how much and how to pay their taxes and what does that all mean. So I put a learning module into the tuition and into the all of the programs on how to understand a P&L, how to understand how to break even, how to understand how to build a business plan, all of those things. Because you become like a mini entrepreneur when you leave my industry. So that's one thing that we put in the last year that I updated it. But I really do listen to my industry, because they're hiring my people, right? So even if I was an HVAC school, or if I was a truck driving school, I would be listening to people who are employing and I would be hearing them of what they feel they need, whether it be professionalism or a certain skill. And that goes into the plan. And then, am I growing my school? Am I adding more programs? Are these programs flatlining? Do I need to add something in? You've got to do a big self-analysis of yourself and each aspect. And sometimes it's hard because some things aren't working and it's a time to let it go.
And can you share any unconventional strategies that you used to grow your business that could help someone?
I'm very unconventional. So I think the thing
Share your top one.
have a website. I know that I opened my school with a credit card. And the first thing I did was I made myself look huge with my website and my social media presence, right?
Okay.
So your branding and marketing of your target audience is important. You don't have to say, oh, I'm just a small guy. So that position yourself as not only a leader, but also somebody that people can believe in and trust, right?
Mm.
Like I'm a best-selling author, so I have legitimacy. I am a technician myself. I have legitimacy. So what is your legitimacy within your industry?
Share that with the world.
I speak to a lot of people that call me about, I see you wrote a book, should I write a book? And I said, yes, because you have a story. And I speak to people in industries, all kinds, safety industry, all kinds of industry. I spoke to a woman whose child was murdered and they have this amazing story. And I'm saying, share your story because stories are powerful. Because I also say to yourself, is Apple really selling devices or are they selling innovation? You know, so think of your favorite company. What are they actually selling? Is Nike really selling a shoe? So think about what you're selling. What is Disney World selling? It's selling a feeling, a good feeling of family, of fun. So you also got to think about what you're selling and really promote those good feelings, right? I'm selling hopes and dreams and saying that you can build a career for yourself, right? And a career that you always wanted, right? Because beauty and booze have been around since the beginning of time. Cleopatra was the first esthetician. And the men in Rome wore makeup. They had a little makeup case under their chairs at Parliament, and then they would touch up their mineral makeup. So I'm like saying beauty and booze, right? We're not selling tires, but even though we all need tires. So in Atlanta, they are building like crazy. So I change a tire a year. It's incredible.
Can you share what would you do, that one thing that you would do different if you had to start all over again tomorrow?
Try to find investors because I probably could have grown so much more so many different ways because I invested my own money to grow 17 times. So it's maybe have an investor look at that, and so that you're not always using your own money to grow. And so I think I would have been more open to that now that I'm looking back.
So can you share how you work on your own personal development, personal growth as a leader? And can you share how it has helped you run and grow your business?
Right. I listen to a lot of podcasts, which I love to do,
Okay.
on a lot of the self-help gurus, whether it's Tony Robbins or others. I listen to them. I listen to other podcasts with business people on it. So that's really helpful to me. I'm a visual person. Reading books is not my thing, even though I think Elon Musk reads like 3 books a day or something. So if you're a reader, then read. I found for me, podcasts are so much easier. And then I belong to associations, so that I'm going to one in October so that I can hear from other business owners what their strengths and struggles are. Because when you are an entrepreneur, it's lonely, I want to tell you, because you are so knee deep in that minutia. You don't have time to really go out and network the way you should. So and then I always try to take a class a year, whether it's a class on a hands-on skill that I can bring back into the school, or whether it's being a technique, or whether it is a business class, whether I can feed myself. I go to a lot of workshops. I'm going to one also, I believe, in October, and they have people from Coca-Cola and Home Depot on a panel. It's geared to female empowerment. I'm going to listen to those top leaders and what they're doing and listen to their round table. So that's really important to me, to not stay in my bubble, because you get so busy. And I wrote a chapter on business as a battlefield, because I really do think it's like a battlefield. And you have to put on that armor every single day. And it's a fight every single day, whether it's your competitors, whether it's the government relations, whether it's new rules and laws, whether it's new taxes. It's a lot and then of course your customers and your clients that are happy, that are unhappy. the second biggest challenge, I think, for any business owner is employees. I was looking, do you know that SpaceX employs 14,000 people? And that got me thinking, because I have 60 employees. And my 60 employees it's a challenge because I don't believe you can actually manage people. I think that people follow their natural inclination. And I think people manage themselves. You can only give them the tools and inspire them. So I started thinking, I was like, could you imagine managing 14,000 people? But then I started thinking that everything these people do at SpaceX means life or death. Now, could you imagine if my 60 employees had the same attitude that this is life or death? Think about your students. They have so many stories, and we're building lives is what we're doing at my school. And imagine if that meant life or death. Would perhaps my employees have a different attitude? So that's a big strike, especially today, because we have different age groups, right? I come from, I'm 56. Total different age group to my 26-year-old that has had everything handed to them and her. And I come from a very work ethic, get it done, work till the job is done type of attitude. The younger one does.
What you think is the most overlooked aspect of entrepreneurship in this industry that new entrepreneurs should be aware of?
Is that it's not for everybody. The first book I read, which I think everybody should read, and it's really thin, and you could even get it online, is The E-Myth. I'm sure you know The E-Myth.
What is it? Sorry?
The E-Myth. E-MYTH. The E-Myth. I guess short form for myth. What it says in a very small nutshell, and it's a very old book, and there's E-Myth Revisited, and is that just because you're a great electrician or you're an amazing hairdresser, HVAC tech, think of all of the different attorney, doesn't mean that you should be an entrepreneur, right? I think that you need to check yourself, because the biggest thing that an entrepreneur needs to know is that you will fail and not be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And not be afraid to take chances. And if there's two types of people, in a kind of a mean way, it's makers and takers. That's like a mean way to put it. But there are people that are excellent at what they do, and they work very hard, and they like to know how much they're going to earn at the end of that 2 weeks. They're going to work really hard. They're going to do what they do, but they want to know how much their paycheck is. Then there's somebody like me, like I'm saying, like, how much could I make in 2 weeks? What are the possibilities? And sometimes that will mean earning less. So I think it's really important is, do you have the makeup, or are you just really good at what you do? And I think that's something that you need to decide, because we all want to work for ourselves. And then I tell my students, why not do a little bit of both? Why not have your side gig? Because America is the world of multiple streams of income, because we're very used to here working 3 or 4 jobs and having our side gigs. So maybe do that first, because what's very hard is to work in the business and on the business. Because I tell everybody, your job does not finish at 5 or 6 o'clock, because now you've got to go home and you've got to check your numbers, your books, your clients for the next day. You've got to build for the next day. So you're now working in and on the business. And you can't stop what you're doing to go fix a problem if you are a technician. So those are hard things. So you've got to think about, is that right? Is that something for you?
Yeah. Definitely, that's great suggestions. Also, the fact that the makers and takers you mentioned, the takers can become makers and the makers can become takers. It's just, at the end of the day, it's a mindset. And the beautiful part about human beings is that it can be shifted. It's just having that desire to want to do something for yourself is something that needs to be more powerful than any of that.
Yeah, I have to have a psychologist, because I think everybody should have. And I said to her, some things are hard when you have to let people go that you've built relationships with. There's some hard things you have to do as a business owner, when you have to pivot and you have to say, okay, that's not working. And that person's got to go. And then I said to her, How do these people like the Brants and the Musks and that have huge companies and the Trumps and all of them, and these people have lives and livelihoods, and how do they do this without feeling? My therapist said, they're sociopaths, narcissistic sociopaths. So I'm not a narcissistic sociopath, but I have to think about, okay, can I create those boundaries? Because if a business is a microorganism and if one part is sick, if one part has cancer, then it can start affecting the other organs. So you're going to have to either let some people go or regroup in that department. It's really
Tough decisions.
yeah, and it has to be done, but it doesn't make it any easier. Especially when you built relationships with these people. And I've been with some of my staff when a child has died or a child is in hospital. I'm a single mom. So I have a lot of heart, but then I have to put my armor on and I have to go to battle. I did my DNA. Thank God I'm part Viking, right? The Viking history. That's another thing. And like, I didn't enjoy history in school because history, especially British history, is like names and dates. But if you have a look at history and Vikings, like how they were destroyed each other, how the Greeks and the Romans was, if you think about it, the entrepreneurs of their time. And today they're not. So I think we can learn a lot from history and learn a lot from leaders. Love the film Napoleon. Oh my God, some of the things in there were really, rough to see. So those things feed me too, because I learned from a really amazing business guru about patterns of behavior. And businesses, especially family-owned businesses, have pattern behavior. You think of the Ford Motor Company or Walmart or any family-owned, there's two parts to that. It's not only the business aspect, but the family dynamic can cause a lot of issues as well. And we call them patterns of behavior. And businesses have to change patterns of behavior, and so do human beings. You're born looking like your parents, right? But you die looking who you want to look.
Yeah. Yeah. I would add on to that instead of focus on the actual behavior because they tend to just end up being temporary, is you go to the source of that behavior and make changes there. Elaine, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. It was great talking to you. I know that you're going to be going places with this brand, especially when you're helping other people do this business and sharing your wisdom in the world. Keep at it. Definitely keep in touch. And I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Girl.